it's interesting. When I've been critical of the Israeli government, instantly on social media, particularly X, I get bombarded with abuse and smears and lies from people very supportive of Netanyahu's strategy, calling me anti-Semitic, calling me a Jew hater, and so on. Wajahat gets the same whenever he criticizes the Israeli government. And these can be dismissed by pro-Israelis. They're saying, well, yeah, you are. You're not Jewish, you're not Israeli, and actually by criticizing what we're doing, you obviously hate Jews and you're obviously anti-Semitic, which is nonsense. But it's very difficult to dismiss what we've just heard in that blistering assessment from Gershon Baskin, who is Jewish, an Israeli, a hostage negotiator. Does it not give you pause for thought to hear somebody like him denouncing what is happening as war crimes and unacceptable and making lives for Israelis and Jewish people around the world less safe, not more safe?
No, I don't consider Gershon an authority. I think that his arguments belong in the dustbin of history. This nonsense repetition of two-state solution. We tried that. We gave Gaza to the Palestinian Arabs. They elected Hamas.
But you didn't give them the rights. You didn't give them the rights, Brooke. I'm sorry. I can't let you just state that. I'm sorry, Brooke. Just to be clear, Brooke, before you continue your response, Brooke, stop talking for a moment. Just to be clear, when you say that, what you don't say is that Palestinians have never been afforded the same human rights as Israelis. That has been the kernel for a lot of the fury that has come from Palestinians going back decades. So this idea, yes, Hamas won an election and they took power. Yes, they were funded to the tune of billions by Netanyahu at his instigation to do that. But Palestinians have never been afforded the same human rights as Israelis. And until that changes, until there is genuine equality on rights, you can't just say, well, they were given their country, they were given a state. They weren't. They were given a country where their rights were determined by their neighbors.
Absolutely untrue.
Brooke, you can respond now.
Israel, every single person in Israel has equal rights, regardless of what your religion is. When they chose to elect Hamas,
I'm talking about in Gaza.
I'm talking about in
Gaza, not Israel.
2007, Hamas, a terrorist group that does not believe in women's rights, that subjugated half of its population to extreme jihadi law, that threw all of its political opponents and anyone who's considered to be gay off the roofs, took away all of the civil rights of the Gazan people and turned them into human shields. I don't understand what is so complicated. Would you give a state to Al-Qaeda? Would you give a state to ISIS? That's what we did as a world community. We gave a state to a radicalized population. And the number one entity responsible for violating the rights, particularly of Arab Muslim children, is the PLO and the Palestinian Authority, which I made an award-winning documentary film about. I was given an award by the United Nations for exposing the systemic indoctrination and continued state-sponsored abuse of innocent Muslim children at the hands of the Palestinian Authority and the terrorist groups they support. Because of the truth of the matter is that this conflict is not in a vacuum. We're talking about something that's been going on even before the creation of the State of Israel, where we've had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Muslim children educated, through their textbooks, through their television programs, by their religious clerics, by their teachers, often by their own parents, to revere a very violent version of Islam. And when you teach an entire population for decades that it is their sole responsibility to engage in conflict and to have a war to reestablish the caliphate, this is what happens. And then you have Israel, a democracy, which is in a completely impossible position, which has tried over and over again. And the supposition by Gershon that it's Israel's fault that we don't have another Palestinian state, that we don't have a deal, is false. All you need to do is read the history books to understand that it is the Arab community, the Muslim community, that has consistently rejected the deal because they do not want a state. Their stated goal as is in the Hamas charter, as they state over and over again on their social media platforms and their propaganda videos, is to not just kill Jews, but to engage in a war and kill all infidels, kill everyone in the West. That's what they're doing. They're slaughtering Christians in Nigeria. They're slaughtering the Druze in Syria. And that is not okay. And everybody's turning a blind eye to that because it's an inconvenient narrative. And then you have Hamas doing the same thing to the Jewish community, which is a minority community in the Middle East. And all of a sudden, all these politics and the politicization of the issue is coming in. So if the world wants peace in the Middle East, you need a de-radicalization program. Just like we had a denazification program in Germany, we need to take radical Islam out of the equation, because that is why we have conflict in the Middle East, and specifically between Gaza right now and Israel.